It's showtime.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
You know, the right to bear arms is because that's the last form of defense against tyranny.
Washington is fundamentally corrupt. There are more words in the IRS code than there are in the Bible.
Made in America, heard around the world. You're listening to Blunt Force Truth. I'm Chuck Woolery, along with my co-host Mark Young. Got a great guest today for you, so stay tuned. And in the meantime, Mark has something he wants to say. He's been chomping at the bit.
I always have something to say, Chuck. One of my favorite punching bags is Elizabeth Warren.
Well,
and God, she's just insane, Chuck.
I know. Aren't they all, though?
It is. It is insane. She now wants to change, instead of abolishing ICE, she's going to change their mission.
And their mission now for Elizabeth Warren would be?
To chase counterfeit purses from coming into America.
In New York, they used to chase all these guys off the street from Nigeria who had fake Gucci bags and Louis Vuitton bags and stuff like that. Now in Hollywood, they used to just have, parties. No,
fake Gucci bag parties?
I'm dead serious. At Christmas time, right around Christmas time, 2 or 3 weeks before, you would find some woman who would come to your house and lay out every kind of Louis Vuitton, Prada, Gucci, you name it. They had the bags and they had the replicas, and they would come to your house and you'd have a party.
Okay, now wait a minute. I know your ex-wives, plural.
Yeah.
There isn't one of them that would have carried a fake Gucci bag.
No, but as gifts.
To give to other people.
Oh, exactly.
All right. That I can believe, because there isn't one of them that would have walked around with a fake bag.
It's not true today.
Well, speaking of Hollywood, we have yet another Hollywood conservative on the show with us today, our friend Kevin Sorbo. Kevin, welcome to Blunt Force Truth.
Good to be back, guys. Good to be
Kevin.
back. Just got back from Israel. I was there for 10 days, sponsoring a group out there. It was a pretty amazing trip.
What did you do?
About it, yeah.
Well, I was there earlier in February, and I'm doing a documentary on the life of John Lennox. John Lennox is a retired mathematician from Oxford University, and just an amazing man. He's an apologist, and he's debated all the great atheists of the world, like Hitchens and Dawkins, and he's just a fascinating guy. And I spent 2 weeks in Oxford with him, 2 weeks in Israel, and I went back with a group that we sponsored. My family, my wife and I, my kids, and we had a group of 40 of us, and it was just incredible. It was a pretty amazing trip, very historical. And I tell my atheist friends, I say, look, there's no atheists out there that debate that Jesus didn't exist. So why don't you go out there and get a little history lesson, and maybe something good can happen to you.
Well, it's very funny. I find this to be true, and I believe it is true. And that is, with progressives, there is no history. History starts today. So they can't repeat it as far as they're concerned, and they can't be hurt by it because it just doesn't exist.
Well, they're doing a good job of trying to erase American history. They're certainly not teaching the Civil War or the American Revolution in our schools anymore.
It's very funny. History is an interesting thing with no flesh and blood on the bones of history. It is kind of dry and boring if it just you bring it down to dates and places and times. And primarily, that's kind of how our history has always been taught. And it's kind of date, places, and times and names of people instead of what they did, what drove them, why they did certain things. So maybe that'll all change and it'll come back with more of a narrative.
That'd be good. It'd be good to see. I mean, I learned all that stuff when I was in school. I enjoyed it. It's funny, when I was going through school, grade school, junior high school, even college, I never saw the stuff that's going on out there right now. It's gotten so unbelievable. I didn't have any teachers tell us how to vote or who to vote for or get angry up there. And I mean, it's incredible how much it's changed.
I know. Well, as I said on the last show, I said Joe Biden keeps saying we're the land of the free, home of the brave, and we believe in free speech. And I thought, has he not been to a college campus lately?
Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, I've noticed that you have you've become a much more aggressive on Twitter recently.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if he's even aggressive. I put out facts.
Okay, truthful. Let me change the word to truthful on Twitter recently.
It's really weird. It's not like I'm attacking. I say, look, here are the facts, and then it's amazing how nuts people get. Look, I had Facebook lined up with Twitter and I posted some positive message about Israel, and it wasn't like anything that was like ridiculous. I just posted something out there, and all of a sudden Facebook blocked me. And I've been off about 6-7 weeks now. I can't get back on.
Are you
It's
serious?
unbelievable. No, and all I did was post a little positive message about my trip that I was going over there on, and then I got blocked out.
I think it's
crazy.
interesting during this time. We have really stepped backwards in time, and there's this whole new anti-Semitism that's going on. And I think driven by Islamists, quite frankly, in this country and out of this country. And I mean, you can go back to the time I watched a movie not too long ago about the people who came out of Germany on the ship that tried to land in Havana, Cuba, and Havana wouldn't take them, and FDR wouldn't take them here in the United States. And some of them were eventually caught in Brussels because Brussels finally let them land there. And then the Nazis took over, and most of them were killed or sent to camps and then died later on. But it was an interesting to look at the level of anti-Semitism back in that time in our country and pretty much in Europe and the rest of the world during the Second World War. Prior to it, this was 1938, 39. And it seems like we're getting back to that time now. Are you noticing that it's almost this anti-Semitic kind of fervor that's going on in this country as well? And it's interesting because I find a lot of Jewish people are involved in it, which is really curious to me. And unless they just self-hate or something, I don't get it, or feel like they need to get along. I mean, New York Times, we know, didn't really report on the Holocaust when it was going on because it was owned by a Jew, and he didn't want to feel like that the paper was pro-Jewish, which go figure that one out. But I don't know. It just seems like it's starting to get a foothold again.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it too. I look at, people attack you for being Christian, people attack you for being, Jewish, and then there's
for being
this huge
straight, being white, being you name it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. and this whole defense of the Muslim religion, I don't quite understand. I mean, not only looking over the history of time, but just take the last 40 years, and you look at the number of attacks from the radical Islam that I don't understand. It's not Christians doing the bombings. It's not Jewish people doing the bombings, and it's just in this country as well. But I think a lot of it stems from the fact that we've removed God from the school. We're turned into a secular country, and I consider myself a Christian. I'm probably not the best Christian in the world. I'm not a Bible thumping one. I'm sort of a live and let live guy, but at the same time, I don't get all this attack. I read this article. There's I think it's Angola prison. It's a prison in Louisiana, which had the highest murder rate of any prison in the country. And the church brought in Bibles there and started graduating. People started taking classes and graduating in a seminary. There has been no murders down there. I think since the last was back in 2005 or something like that. And it's interesting that we put Bibles into prisons, but we took it out of schools. Look at the things that have flipped from that now. It's pretty interesting.
Well,
and you're right though. No, go ahead.
This is the whole progressive movement. I mean, it's always been like this. You attack faith, you attack anything that's civil obedience and make it civil disobedience. Attack the foundation, which they're doing, in order to transform the country. And this is one thing I don't think people understood about President Obama and the Democrats at that time. And really, this goes back in history quite a ways. This is nothing new. It's just kind of out in the open. And interestingly enough, Mark and I were discussing this before we went on the air. Trump is probably the reason that they've taken the mask off. And they're showing us who they are. They're not apologizing for it. They're advocating for things that are totally un-American, totally without reason, totally all government, totally socialist. I mean, you name it, you go down the line. And this has always kind of been their mission. And faith has a great deal to do with it. It's really funny, Kevin, because if you look at Stalin, when Stalin wrote the Constitution, I think it's 1937, and you go back and you look at that Constitution, it is exactly what the Democrats are running today on. I mean, they are mimicking it almost word for word. So when you see this going on today and you wonder, how long can you fool people, or are they fooled at all? It's worrisome, but
There's
certainly
a difference here, though. Chuck, I got to point something out to you, and that is socialism always drives to remove faith because you need to depend on government, not on God.
Right.
The one thing that's different, Kevin brought this up, maybe Kevin has comment on it, is they're very dead set on driving faith out of America, as they have Europe and Canada and other places.
Well, you can't worship another God, and when government's your God,
But they're willing to hold on to Islam.
Yeah, but there's a reason for that, and I'll say I'm gonna make this not as a prediction but as an observation. Islam is very much like a progressive Democrat. They have a lot in common. Islam is a religion that's wrapped in an ideology, a political ideology. And in order to promote that ideology, you have to be part of the religion. And we all know that progressives and Democrats are ideologically religious. That is their religion. So that's a great common ground for both of them.
Well, that's interesting because I mean, that was something I was going to ask you. I don't, every time you say something that's, that's taken as a negative towards Muslim religion, you just get attacked, and they say, well, not all Muslims are bad. Well, of course, not all Muslims are bad. You're not making that statement. But, we had a president for 8 years who couldn't even call it radical Islam terrorist. He couldn't even call it that. And yet that's where most of that was coming from, that I don't know, excuse for religion that they would just use. I don't know. I mean, it's weird to me that there's such a protection in America with that. And
but
what you just said, makes sense.
Isn't it interesting in our world, Kevin, in Hollywood, if you look at any series that has any kind of religious connotation, any kind of overtone, any bad guy, Christians are always bad. They're always
rich white guys.
Well, I mean, what's this new series out right now with all the women in red with white hats? It's a
Handmaid's
Tale or something like that. Yeah, and it's a complete distortion of Christianity, and they promote it as being Christian, which is usually what they do. They promote the unordinary, the out of the ordinary, the false, declaration of what Christianity is in the media, and people buy it. I've been on Twitter, and they've used Handmaid's Tale to say, this is who you are. You're like these people. I'm nothing like that. But that's what they think.
Well, sure. I mean, that's the way they're always going to go with it. And I mean, you look at more and more stuff coming on cable, television, wherever it may be. They keep lowering the bar with any sort of class to morality, and everything just seems to be filled with anger and hate.
Well, I got a question for both of you, and that is, when you look at the media, when you look at news, we've got Fox News, we've got a couple of little outlets, we've got Rush, we've got shows like this. The left has everything else. And when I say everything else, they also have entertainment. I mean, even Fox Entertainment is far left as a rule.
Yeah.
How do we get entertainment back? Because when we look at stuff, and this has always been the problem, when we look at Christian films or conservative films, so I'm going to say whether it's some of the Christian movies that have been made or some of the conservative films, like Chuck and Kevin, you probably guys remember the group that redid, what was it, Atlas Shrugged, which was an amazing book,
right.
but the production was horrible.
Yeah, it wasn't very good. The movie wasn't very good at all. I wanted it to be, but it wasn't.
So how do we get control, not control, but how do we get back in the entertainment game where we can use all of the technology and all of the quality that the left uses to tell good stories, to tell American stories, to tell Christian stories, to tell stories that are uplifting, not dystopian, end of the world if you don't stop breathing and releasing CO2 movies. I mean, how do we get back in here?
I'm going to let Kevin take this one because that's his area, not mine.
Well, I've been fighting that for the last 10, 11 years. I mean, most of these independent movies are tough to get out there because competing against Hollywood's $250 million mega hits, and most of them are they'll keep doing the Avengers, they'll keep doing Thor, they'll keep doing Pirates of the Caribbean as long as they're making, $2 billion around the world. And I get it. It's called show business, right? But when I do my little $2-3 million movies, it's so hard to get theater space. It's so hard to fight for that. And these are good movies. I used to get stopped all the time for Hercules or Andromeda, going through airports, traveling. 80% of the time now, people are saying, hey, we want more of your movies like What If, God's Not Dead, Soul Surfer, Let There Be Light, which was my latest one. And, these movies need the support of people. And the only way we can get it out there is word of mouth, because we don't have $100 million budget to promote it in every basketball and football game and throw it in every theater. So that's what it comes down to. We need people to wake up and really pay attention to these things for the value and the morality that they have. They're not boring. They're fun. I don't call any of the movies I do Touched by an Angel. They're more like Punched by an Angel. There's things in there that will sort of sneak up on people and make them think and make them laugh, make them cry, make and get involved. And that's why I call these actors movies. I mean, I love a good visual effect movie too, but every time you watch an Avenger movie, they're in New York City. They take down about 12 buildings. You go, wow, they just killed 3 million people, but we're not talking about that, So it's interesting, and it is a battle that's out there. I have no other way to fight it than do what I'm doing now. And I know Mark's doing the same thing. And my latest movie is Miracle in East Texas, set in 1930. Got a wonderful cast with John Ratzenberger and Tyler Mane from the X-Men movies and Lou Gossett Jr. And now that one, we're hitting the markets right now with it. We've got about 4 more film festivals to go. We just finished a couple of them and we won awards. But we need to find that P&A money, that print and advertising money, to get it in the theaters and get people to know about it. And I'm just trying to raise, $2-3 million to do that. And the battle is on. I'm doing what I can, and I think I'm putting out really good, strong movies that got great, cinematography. Great. I mean, these movies look like they're 3 times, 4 times more than what the budget we shoot them on.
So let me ask you something. When you're doing your movies, are you more interested in being in the starring role? Or are you more interested in being on the production side?
Doesn't matter. I've got so many great scripts. I mean, I've whittled down at least 400 scripts down to about 30 here. And I love to act. That's still my passion. That's still what I want to do. And the last 2, Let There Be Light and Miracle in East Texas, which hasn't been out yet. Yeah, I directed both of them, but I also had the lead in both of them. It's still something I enjoy doing.
There's a reason I say that, and you know exactly what I'm getting at, I'm sure, is that's bankability. Who's bankable? And
sure,
you have people that may not be spiritually on the same road with you, but they certainly are ideologically on the same road with you. And that's guys like Gary Sinise, who's a very good actor. John Voight is an excellent actor, although he takes on a lot of different personas and different roles, but he's still a great actor. And these people are available and probably sympathetic to you ideologically. Is there any way to capture that for the bankability and get into a more profitable movie or a bigger movie? You know what I'm saying? Get after more capital?
Sure. Oh, yeah. No question. And there's people I can reach out to. They'll do that. I think there's other actors, too, that, people want to work that are big name or they're solid name that are bankable. But, I think there's still like a fear in Hollywood for them to even want to be part of something called faith-based. You look at Blind Side, that was certainly a faith-based movie. You need a big star in Sandra Bullock, of course.
Yeah.
And, it's a matter of just finding the right people, the right time, the right places. But they're out there, but they're probably the same fear of saying, I don't want to let people know I have some kind of faith in Hollywood, because it might be just as damaging a career if you were a Christian.
I remember a big article.
Conservative.
An article came out on me on, what was that magazine at Woody? No, it wasn't Woody Allen. The guy who did what was his name? Kind of a washed out looking artist who did all the Campbell.
Andy Warhol.
Andy Warhol had a magazine in New York, and they did a 2-page spread on me when I was doing Scrabble and Love Connection. And the opening line was, Chuck Woolery talks to God. And it was really kind of a
slam. So to make it sound like you're a nutcase.
Well, yeah, it made me sound like, I had a crystal ball in front of me and I was trying to connect up and all that kind of stuff. And of course, it wasn't anything like that. But which always made me fearful of just talking to the press, because they never really got it right, nor did they want to. But you wonder if people are afraid of that kind of thing, that kind of exposure, who are really heavy duty talents. But I just have to feel like if the story's there and you're really telling a great story and it's very well written and they're convinced it'll be well directed, that you will excel. I mean, I think of Michael Landon, who really made his living on speaking to families. He really did. I mean, he was really a family-oriented producer, director, actor. Almost everything he did was around that, and it was extraordinarily popular. And he got his message across. A lot of times there was a spiritual message involved in it. In fact, more often than not. It may have been.
Highway to Heaven was one of his shows. That was obviously a huge, successful TV series. Now it was headed by Dan Gordon. Dan Gordon was the showrunner. He wrote 60 episodes of that, and he wrote my last two movies, Let There Be Light, and the most recent one, Miracle in East Texas. He wrote those. And he's nominated for an Academy Award for Original Screenplay. He wrote The Hurricane for Denzel Washington. He wrote Wide Earp, Kevin Costner. He's a wonderful writer. And it's out there. Look,
so he's a bankable writer. I keep going back to bankable because that's really.
No question. Look, and Let There Be Light did very well for a little independent movie. Did very, very well. Right. $2.3 million budget, has made $12 million today. I got a call from Netflix. I met with the TV department, met with the theatrical department. They said, "Hey, look, we're looking to open an inspirational division in Netflix here." And let's face it, Netflix has the money and certainly has the power. Well, so I've had meetings. I've had meetings with them. I sent them a number of different scripts. They hemmed and hawed, went back and forth over 6 months, and then now it's just sort of disappeared. So I don't know if that, they say they want to get in that. I told them, I said, look, it doesn't matter where you stand, it's still called show business. Why wouldn't you want to pay attention to 80 million households out there that want movies and TV shows like Hallmark is still showing? People want things that appeal to them, that have a good morality and a nice, strong story without being preachy, without being in your face about you better believe in God or you're going to hell. I get it. People don't want to be preached to. I understand that. And I don't want to do movies that really do that. I want to do movies that touch people's lives. So we're still waiting for Netflix. I mean, I'm going to tell you, we had the meetings.
I have a theory about that. And you can decide whether I'm right or wrong, but I have a definite theory about that. It's called a cocktail theory, the cocktail party theory. What new thing are you working on this week? Well, we're working on a faith-based movie with Kevin Sorbo. That's not good cocktail talk. We're talking about a murder between, 13 people and aliens invade. Oh, that's good cocktail talk there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a social thing. I used to believe that. I worked at NBC for 14 years, and I used to believe that it was all based on money. It was how much money you brought in. It's really not true. The business, a lot of times, they will sacrifice money just to get their message across, whatever it is. And if you're not part of that message, they will waste you if you're number one on the network. Because I've been there and done that. I mean, I'm not going to go down my whole history, but Scrabble was a good example. It was number one in its time slot at 9:30 for the first time in the history of NBC. And in the 6th year, they took it off to replace it with an Oprah-like talk show that lasted 2 weeks, and they never put it back on. Love Connection was number one in its slot, number one in syndication. They took it off to put on another talk show. It didn't work well. They would never, try it again. It's really interesting, the personalities that are involved in the higher up administrative business of Hollywood. It's the ideology is really hard to come up against. It really is. It's very, very difficult.
Well, compare this with this nonsense with the women's volleyball team.
Mm-hmm.
You have all these people that are out demanding that they get the same pay as the men's volleyball team.
Well, the soccer team.
The soccer team. Right. Sorry, soccer team.
Yeah.
Right. That shows you how impressed I am with it. Now, the men's league makes something like 20x more money than the women's league. But they should get paid the same thing.
Yeah, but that's this whole equal pay, everybody's equal, all that kind of stuff. It's the theory that we're all equal. We're not born equal. We're just equal in everything, and everybody should be paid the same. The janitor should make as much as the CEO. It's absurd. It never happened in history. It's never happened in the world. It's not going on now anywhere. I don't care what socialist, communist country you're in. There's always the elite, and there's always, The secret is to try to get rid of the middle class.
Yeah, but my question is, if Hollywood is behind this, then why isn't Alec Baldwin making the same money as a union scale actor?
Yeah, right. It's a joke.
Exactly.
It's an absolute joke. No. It's never going to happen.
It's a joke. Look at it. Look at the WNBA and the NBA. Are those women going to want the same thing? They don't get near the ratings. They don't near the crowds. I mean, it's just a fact. It's a product that's out there. Look, I want Tom Cruise's $20 million picture too. I'm not getting that. It's not fair. I should demand that.
That's my point. Why isn't Kevin Sorbo getting $20 million a movie?
Darn straight.
It's got to be fair.
All the actors, everybody should be getting that much money. You know, it's just like the Masters, right? When Tiger Woods wins the Masters, the other golfers, it's unfair. So everybody should get a couple $1 million in a green jacket. Everybody's a winner.
We all should get a green jacket. Everyone, we all participated.
So I've got an idea for you guys. Right. Here's an idea. Why don't we wipe out all men's and women's professional sports and even amateur sports from now on? And why don't we just make it, there's one team. There's no WNBA, there's the NBA. If you're a woman, you want in. If you can qualify, you get in.
And they just play themselves.
So because remember, women can do anything men can do now, right? And men can claim they're a woman and be in the woman's team now. So why not? We're tearing all these gender lines down. Let's just create one team of everybody, and everybody gets to try out, and whoever's the best players gets to play. How long do you think that would last?
Well, it should be the best to begin with. I mean, the NBA. I mean, everybody complains about diversity. Well, where's the diversity in the NBA and the NFL? You know, why aren't there more people from Guam playing and from China and from Hungary? I mean, it's unfair that it's so lopsided with talent. You know, I go crazy on that. To me, if I own a business, I don't care what color the person is. I don't care who, man or woman, either. I want the best people, and we're starting to take that away from everything but sports. In sports, they take the best, don't they? But if you want a business, you better hire X amount.
I think it's unfair. I have said on this show many times to Chuck, I believe that the NBA discriminates against me.
Yeah.
Because I'm not tall enough to play in the NBA. You need to be 6'5" to be in the NBA, and I barely hit 6 feet. I can't play in the NBA. I can't dunk a basketball. I think I'm being underprivileged. I believe that they should let me in. I should get a contract. They should lower that net by 2 feet to be able to, so that I can dunk the basketball. I mean, it's not fair. I should be in. Chuck, what do you think? Do you think I should be in the NBA?
Well, I think this is all just ridiculous, emotional, knee-jerk reaction to something that people can do nothing about. And so it's like promising health care for all and health care for illegals and health. I mean, they're promises that just they sound good on the surface to people who perhaps can't play in the NBA. I don't know. But it's all just, it's meaningless. It's absolutely meaningless. It's vacuous. And yet it's a headline every day. Blue Emu works fast and you won't stink. This episode of Blunt Force Truth is brought to you by Blue Emu Pain Relief Products. Now, I've been in show business for many years now, and I'm not slowing down, but I can use a little help every now and then. Blue Emu's family of products are made in America and have become a staple in my life. The deep penetrating formula of Blue Emu Original is best for supporting my muscles and joints, and I'm sure you've seen it. It's on the shelf in a blue and white jar. I also use Maximum Arthritis for any arthritic pain and the lidocaine cream for numbing pain relief. Not only do these Blue Emu formulas work great, there's no chill, no burn, and no odor. Blue Emu, it works fast and you won't stink. Available at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Amazon, and other fine retailers.
So, Kevin, what's your thoughts about what's going on in Congress right now? We've got Nancy Pelosi's now called a racist by the four geniuses. And I really wonder wouldn't you like to just talk to Nancy privately? Nancy, how does it feel to be a racist now?
It's all just crazy. I mean, it just really is. I mean, I know you got AOC now going after her, but AOC can say anything she wants, and we give her headlines constantly. Here's this bartender that now is sitting in Congress, and she just says anything. It doesn't have to be true. It's just wacky craziness, and people buy into it. That's what makes me laugh so hard.
That's the frightening part about it is there are some people who buy into it, but I don't think as many as most people think. I really don't.
No, I agree.
It was like Kamala Harris going after Joe Biden with the busing situation. Black people hated busing as much as the white people did. They hated it. It was an inconvenience. It was taking them out of their neighborhoods. It was, and everybody failed to mention that. And yet he was racist.
Do you guys think Biden's a racist?
No.
But we all are, aren't we? Isn't that what they're saying? They're saying everybody's
around it. If you're not a Democrat, you're a racist. Right.
Well, you got a point there. I guess at some point we're all supposed to be racist. And you know what? In reality, everybody does have some type of prejudice. We all do have certain types of prejudice.
Human trait.
Sure it is. And it's genetic. I mean, we're wired to be attracted to people that look like ourselves because genetically we know that's safe.
Well, look.
So we have to overcome these things.
You brought up a story, talk about safe and all this kind of stuff. You talked about a story earlier, and Kevin probably is aware of this, of a woman in Philadelphia parked outside of a store, went inside a Dunkin' Donuts or something to meet her father of her 3 children.
Pizza parlor.
A pizza parlor. She left the 3 children in the car.
Seems like a great idea, in a running car.
With the motor running, and some guy comes, steals the car. Now, here's the end of the story. The guy whose father was, the father
of 2 of the 3 kids.
Right. Ran out, found the guy stuck in traffic, pulled him out of the car, and then he and others beat this guy to death. Now, I can kind of understand how you'd be really upset that someone stole your car with your children, and I get that. I got children. But there comes the point when you beat a guy and you say, okay, that's enough. Let's let the police handle this. So there's a certain amount of self-restraint. It seems today on the left, there is no self-restraint at all in anything. There are no lines of demarcation. Everything is just, there are no borders, I'll put it that way, on any of the way they think, the way they act, the way they respond to things. It's all very emotional. So they end up killing this guy, and who knows what the outcome's going to be. And a lot of people would say, well, I understand that. His children in the car, he endangered them and everything else, but he could have just, beat the guy up and then said, okay, you're not moving until the police get here. But there's no restraint. And
apparently the bystanders helped kill the guy.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy didn't just kill him himself. The bystanders jumped in, and the angry mob killed the guy for stealing the car. And if somebody stole a car with my kids in it, would I be upset? Yeah, absolutely. First off, would I leave my 3 kids in a running car outside of a pizzeria?
No.
Well, no. I mean, that's just stupid. I'm not justifying the guy stealing the car, but there's always the possibility the guy that stole the car didn't know there were 3 kids in it.
Who were screaming, let me out.
Right. He might have just saw a running car. He was your run-of-the-mill car thief that was going to steal a car and all of a sudden got 3 kids thrown into the deal. But back to what you're saying, Chuck, there's the bigger picture where you're going is there's this incivility that is happening now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look at what's going on in Portland. I mean, these Antifa guys, they're the fascists. I mean, I love this socialism. They want socialism when they call everybody else Nazis. They call Ben Shapiro and Prager a Nazi. They're Jewish, for crying out loud. And Nazi stands for National Socialism. I mean, they're so ignorant and uneducated what the true meaning of Nazi is. I mean, look, and these guys can just go out and wear their little masks. They look like ISIS members and start beating up on people. And the Portland cops do, and the Portland cops do nothing about it.
Yeah.
Tell me who's the angry mob out there. These are the guys who scream for tolerance and scream for freedom of speech, but it's a one-way street.
Well, it's very funny that you mentioned that because I can't, in my memory, and maybe you can, I can't remember conservatives being violent anywhere. Now, I know that they'll say, well, this guy ran over a girl in Charlottesville, but I don't think he was a conservative. But you see it from the left everywhere. I don't ever see this on the right. Am I wrong? Is there an example that I'm missing?
Well, I'm sure there's an example, but what you're saying is the truth. I mean, the anger and the hatred comes from a lot of this left, and a lot of this stuff is definitely organized. I mean, let's face it. I mean, I'm hearing rumors now that, Soros is behind it. Now I saw some article today that they said Obama's got some sort of funding for some projects for just, pushing socialism and pushing, people to go out and march and debate. And
Isn't it amazing? These guys make all their money in capitalism, and they go out and push socialism. They want you to be a socialist, but they don't really want to be one.
Well, they never do. These are the guys worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Like you say, they can afford to be socialists, right? Because they live the way that they live. I mean, everything is capitalism in terms of these jobs that are created. And are these people working? Are these Antifa guys? Do they have jobs? Or are they just being funded by whoever to cause all these problems and get away with it? That's the weird thing. But, there will be a tipping point. I think there'll be a tipping point. There are conservatives out there that, there might be something down the road that none of us really want to see.
I hope not.
Kevin had a tweet. I was looking at some of Kevin's tweets that he's been he's kind of joined the fray, and now he's probably getting assaulted more like you and I do.
I get insulted all the time.
It's hysterical.
And it's always for the same thing, and I'm sure Kevin understands this. The minute you speak the truth to anything, you just get pillared by the left.
Well, here's one of the things that Kevin put out there, Chuck. I thought this was brilliant. And that is, his comment was, not one feminist has defended Sarah Sanders.
Well, that's true. They won't. It's ideology. They never defend anyone.
But why? Why do women's rights only apply to liberal women?
Because it's
well, look at the magazine. Look at the magazines out there too. And then who do they put on the covers? They don't put anybody that's done anything that's not from the right. It's all left people that they throw on there.
Well, yeah. I mean, probably the most beautiful first lady in the world is not going to get a magazine.
I know.
And a former model. It's just, it's so obvious what they do. And I think this 2020 election is going to be a real referendum on all of these people. I just hope it is. I really do. If it's not, our country's in deep trouble. And my kids are going to have to live here during this. It's not going to affect me that much.
Now, Kevin, you've got another movie. What is it? Reliant? Is it? What is it?
The Reliant.
The Reliant. I'm sorry.
Movie.
Tell us about that.
Well, it's about the economic collapse of America and the resulting riots that are going to take place in cities all across the country. And I'm a guy that's just there to try to protect my family when everybody just goes nuts. Because, we are just so close to having a revolution happen. That it doesn't take much. Look at the riots over the last 10 years that have happened in cities, and it doesn't take a whole lot to get people going. And a lot of these people aren't even part of the city. We found that out with Ferguson and Baltimore. A lot of these guys were just busted in to cause problems. So do we have problems out there? Sure we do. But it's this movie has it's interesting. Initially, they gave it an R rating, which I thought was interesting. It's like they did that to that Unplanned movie. So even the left agrees that watching an actual abortion is pretty horrific. So let's give it at least an R rating. So they did that with my movie. They did that with my movie Let There Be Light. They gave it a PG-13, and I tried to get it down to a PG. I thought can't be any worse than a PG. And they said to me, well, your characters, at the beginning, you're a drinker and you're hooked on pharmaceuticals and you get in a car crash. When you don't even show the car crash. And I start going, okay. So all of the Pirates of the Caribbean, Avenger movies, and all of the Jason Bourne Ultimatum with hundreds of people getting killed, bullet shots to the head, like left and right. That's the same rating as my movie. But they did it to my movie because they're trying to stop families from going to see these movies.
Now, Reliant, what's the status on that movie right now?
It's coming out in November. I don't remember the date exactly. I think the first or second week in November.
Well, I have a lot of respect for you doing this. It must be extraordinarily difficult to start from scratch with a script and putting everything together. I can't even imagine what a big job that is to get it funded, get it put out, and get it released. It must be just overwhelming.
Yeah, it does get frustrating. I had 2 movies lined up this summer, and 2 different things happened that the plug got pulled in both of them. This weird one little thing that just, okay, we can't do it now. Maybe we'll do it next year. And one movie we spent a couple months prepping and putting the crew and cast together, and all of a sudden, no, we're not going to do it now. You're like, what? So, it's tough. I'm only raising $2 to $3 million. That sounds like a lot, but
people think movies are magic, and they may be magic, but there's a lot of very hard work. Lots of hard work and, long hours that go into just getting it off the ground.
Yeah, Well, that pre-production routine is brutal, and you got to make a lot of sacrifices. You're always cutting the script. You're always, there's always something. There's always something going on with it. But at the same time, I still love it. I love being on the set. I love working with everybody on both sides of the camera, and I still love the business. I just don't like what's happening to it.
So this movie that you got coming out, this is it, and it's a bit of obviously a dystopian view, but this is, if I'm understanding, we have an economic collapse and the country goes into widespread rioting, right?
Yep.
How accurate do you think this movie portrays that? And I mean, do you think that this is something that could really happen?
Well, I think it could happen anywhere. I mean, look at Europe. I think if it wasn't for Germany, I think you'd have more countries like France, Italy, and Spain following the lead of Greece. So look what's going on in Venezuela. I mean, holy smoke! Do you think that country is a little in a state of mess right now? It's pretty insane what's going on down there. I mean, I know a couple people from Venezuela live here in America, and I've talked to them about it, and they just said, "Look, I'm just glad I got out of Dodge because it's crazy what's going on." That country was very prosperous.
Oh my gosh! They got more oil than they know what to do with down there.
Yeah,
but it's always in the hands of a few, and those few happen to be in the government.
Yep. That's just the problem. And then, we got our own country now screaming for bigger government. They want cradle to grave responsibilities for all of our lives. And that's crazy. I mean, this country was built on individuals. It was built on people that worked hard and created jobs. And we're starting to vilify these people for actually going after the American dream and creating it. I look at friends that I've had for the past and said, I hate my boss. I hate this. I'm going, wait a minute. You've got a job in the company. You were able to buy a house. You're married. You can take care of your kids. You got a nice car. You take family vacations, and you're blaming your boss for the life that you've been given. I mean, what's this wacko? What's her name out of Minnesota again? My home state.
Ilhan Omar.
There you go. I try to forget it.
Ilhan Omar.
Here's a woman that came to America at a very young age. Got the heck out of Dodge in Somalia, and she's had an amazing success living in America, and she says America is horrible. And I wonder where I made a comment. Well, I know, and I made a comment saying, maybe you should go back to Somalia and just get a little reminder of what she left and what she has in America. And then somebody tried to get me banned on Twitter today. So Twitter came back and said, they give you these little notices saying, you've been told to watch it, what you made a post. You check the post up, but your post is fine. So you'll stay on Twitter. And all I said is go back to your neighborhood and see how great it is to live there compared to here. That's all I said. And see if it's better there, then maybe you should go back there, and prove to me how it's better. Everybody wants to come here.
Great again.
I have a theory about this, and that is Talib is another one in Michigan, in Detroit, where Mark lives.
Oh my gosh!
And Omar and then AOC. All these people, primarily, there's another set of rules that comes into this. When you're an Islamist, you want to live under the rules of Islam, and that's Sharia law. And I really believe that behind all of this is really trying to get America away from our justice system and into Sharia law. And I think they're trying it everywhere. They're certainly trying it in Britain. They're trying it in Germany. They're trying it in Norway, Sweden. It's sweeping all across Europe. And it wouldn't be the first time they've tried it here. So I think behind all of this is really that ideology, that Muslim ideology, or that Islam ideology.
Chuck, just real quick. Here in Dearborn, Dearborn's the next city over to us, which is the South Dearborn, which is the largest concentration of people from the Middle East, outside of the Middle East.
Right.
They now have patrol cars that look like Dearborn police cars, which are Islamic patrols. Mm-hmm. They now have their own Sharia enforcement cars.
Well, there you go.
In the neighborhoods.
Yeah. So maybe most people won't recognize this or even admit it if it's going on, but once it hits, they will, and then they'll be disappointed. Maybe.
I just don't know, Chuck. I don't know how disappointed people are going to be or not. We need to get people to wake up. We need this to me, we need to make sure this president gets reelected, and we need to get control of the House back, and we need to get these 4 freshmen out of Congress.
I'll tell you what it's like, and I think Kevin can back me up on this. You have all these people from the Middle East who have run away from and escaped Sharia law. And so they come, and then they have a group of imams or people like that who are advocating Sharia law. So they fall in line, and they start advocating Sharia law. It's kind of like Democrats in New York moving to Florida, running away from what they've created, and then recreating it in Florida, or Democrats from California running to my state in Texas and recreating here what they ran away from. It's insane, but it happens all the time, and I think it all kind of comes together under that theory anyway.
There were very famous studies done years ago on these are sociological studies, and what to your point, they were watching the movement of people, and when they took large groups of low-income people out of abject poverty neighborhoods and moved them into new housing, new subdivision, all new buildings, it took roughly 24 months or less for all of those new buildings to be dilapidated and to look like the slum that they moved out of. Mm-hmm. And it is, although people want to escape the slum or escape Somalia or escape LA.
And that's not everybody. It's just
not everybody.
Percentage of people who are in control.
But this gets back to, it's not about where you're at. It's about your mindset. And if you if you take the slum with you, then you're going to act like you live in the slum. If you're escaping Somalia, but you still want to take the mentality with you, you're still going to want to live like that. I mean, it's the same thing you're seeing. People from California all running to Texas, trying to ruin Texas.
And with open arms, I must say, except for our governor and our lieutenant governor.
Now, Kevin, you're still living in California, right?
No, I left.
You did leave. I thought you did.
Where do you live now?
Yeah, I'm in Florida.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
that's right. What city? What area of Florida?
Texas. So
What part of Florida did you go?
Well, I love Dallas. My wife nixed me on that one. I also love Nashville. But I got to go back to what you said, because it's interesting, because a lot of people are leaving California because they're making it so difficult even to live there with a lot of stuff, with the traffic and the taxes and, of course, the politics. But you have so many people now that voted in all these Democrats that are now leaving for Nevada, they're leaving for Arizona, they're leaving for Texas, they're leaving for Nashville. And what are they doing? They're voting for the same people, what you just said, that got them into trouble, made them leave California. And California, the exodus of people out of California and New York as well is insane. I read something that Texas and Florida both are getting close to 1,000 people a day moving into the state.
Texas is the same way. And Austin, which I'm very close to, geographically, is literally turning into San Francisco and loving every minute.
Now, I'm worried about Florida, because I have a home in Florida also, and we've barely pulled out the Senate race and the governorship this past round.
Yep.
Florida. Same thing in Texas. I mean, Cruz almost lost the state of Texas.
Kevin, what area?
All these states
blue.
What area of Florida are you in?
I'm just renting here in Tampa for now, but we're going to look between Tampa and Naples, spend the year just renting a house for 1 year to make a decision.
Yeah, we're close to each other.
Yeah, really close.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, I'll catch up with you off here where you're at.
Okay.
So anyways, what else do we have coming up, buddy, before we wrap up here? We've got Reliant coming out. What else? What else you working on?
I got another movie called The Mustard Seed, with Peter Coyote's in that movie. We shot that in... What a great voice
Peter Coyote has, huh?
Yeah, we shot that up in, where did we shoot? I'm trying to remember where I shot. Guthrie, Oklahoma, which is a lot of fun.
Peter Coyote has one of those voices like Lloyd Bridges. I mean, it's so distinctive. You can't miss who's talking, even if you can't see him.
Yeah. But he's about as far left as he can get to, we try to have conversations. But he got
Yeah, I stayed away from politics all the time I was in LA. Nobody knew where I was because I wouldn't let them know, except I had a very far-left producer on Love Connection. He used to walk in and during my time of prep getting ready to do the show, I had like an hour left, and Rush Limbaugh used to be on Fox and on his television show, and I'd watch that.
Sure.
And my producer would come in and say, you know, when Clinton's out of office, this guy's not going to have a job. Yeah, well,
that didn't hold up.
All dealt with it.
All right. So what else we got going on? We've got these two movies. Anything else?
Yeah, I've got I just finished a narration on this very interesting. It's certainly biblical. It's about the book of Revelation and the end of the world, and it was pretty fascinating for me. I just narrated it. I've got a sequel to a movie I did that came out last year for Lionsgate called Bernie the Dolphin. This is Bernie the Dolphin Part 2. I've got what else? The Mustard Seed was. Who else was in the Mustard Seed with me?
Change the name of Benny the Dolphin to Save Benny the Dolphin, and you'll have a huge crowd.
Yeah, exactly. But in the Mustard Seed, Mira Sorvino's in it as well. Burgess Jenkins, another great actor, great guy, and I've got two other movies that look like they're going to get funded now. One's a Western, which I love Westerns. I'm looking forward to that.
We don't make enough good Westerns anymore, do we? I love Western anymore.
I think the last great Western that was done was, what was that? Oh, it was awesome, too. It was just great. It was about the OK Corral. What was the name of that? There were, oh, God. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're not talking about Kurt Russell.
They did.
Yes, Kurt Russell's
the White Earp.
The Kurt Russell movie.
Tombstone.
That was awesome. That was a great movie.
Yeah, I think that was Tombstone. Here's the thing: the reason America still is a pretty good market for Westerns, but the rest of the world isn't, and that's the vast majority of money now.
I keep trying to make people understand that a lot of times the way Hollywood leans is because of the international market. They can't offend Europe and Asia and places like that, and so they just toe the company line.
Yeah,
and the Westerns don't sell in Europe, huh?
No.
Well, they used to in Italy. Remember the spaghetti Westerns?
Yeah. I've got friends in Spain who love American Westerns, actually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, not only all the Clint Eastwood ones, but the Trinity movies, too, were very funny.
Yeah. See, I think one of the problems with Westerns is you think about John Wayne today. Could John Wayne even get a job today? I think most of Hollywood was pretty conservative up until the '60s, and then things kind of did an about face. But
most of Hollywood you look conservative up until the '60s, if you think about it.
Yeah, that's true.
But we have I think from a leading man standpoint, the people that are leading men in movies today aren't the type of guys you'd expect to see in a Western.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think. Could you see Leo DiCaprio doing a John Wayne movie? Replacing John Wayne in a role? Come on.
No, that's not fair. John Wayne was John Wayne. It's like saying, it's not. It's just not the same. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I could see Kevin in a role though. I could see Kevin being able to pull off a Western now.
Oh, sure.
Well, I've done 4 Westerns. I've had a good time doing them. So check out Avenging Angel, and I think you'll like that one.
You know who was a really good cowboy, who was a game show host? Was Bob Eubanks.
He's a real cowboy, though.
Yeah, Bob Eubanks was a serious roper. He had on his little ranch, he had his own little setup where he could practice roping all the time with cows. And I asked him one time, I said, what's your dream? He said, my dream is to be just an extra in a movie where I could ride a horse and I could see myself riding a horse anywhere. It didn't matter where.
All right. Well, Kevin, if you're going to do a Western here, we got to give Bob Eubanks a ride on.
All right, let's do it. Well, I've got about 6 Westerns, and one of the Westerns that we had set up to do, that's where the plug got pulled. That was totally disappointing. It's a wonderful post-Civil War movie, and it was pretty cool. So hopefully we'll get it made down the road.
Well, you're one of our favorites, Kevin. I wish I'd have known you better when I was in Los Angeles. We could have had some interesting conversations, but now we're Now we're coasts apart. But
that's right.
Really enjoy having you on the show, and we wish you well with all of your new things, and we'll be connecting that. How we do that, Mark? I'm not sure.
We'll put links to Kevin's now Twitter account since Facebook has banned him. So we won't put a link to his Facebook account.
I have a Facebook account, Kevin. I've never been on Facebook in my life. It's run out of Detroit. I don't even know who does it.
Well, it's
funny.
Well, Patrick actually has your Facebook page for you. Your Facebook page.
Well, there's a Facebook account. Well, there's a Facebook account out there, but somebody else is running it, and I never said it was okay to do it, and they started it, but they're pretending to be me. So
I don't even know how to get on Facebook.
We could go. By the way, Kevin, we can actually go to Facebook and get that page shut down if you wanted to. No, seriously, because he's the real Kevin Sorbo.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, if somebody's impersonating
somebody's mimicking him. Okay.
Right, because we did that with you, too.
Yeah, I know. We had a lot of people doing that to me.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah, it can be done. It takes a little work, but it can be done. But go to Blunt Force Truth, look at the bluntforcetruth.com, look at the show notes where it says Kevin Sorbo. You'll find links to his social media, and we'll put links to the movies and everything.
Thanks, folks, for listening to the show. Hope you enjoyed it. Kevin, thank you so much, and you're welcome back anytime you want to come. And be sure to watch for us on Blunt Force Truth, the next one. And we'll see you then. Bye-bye.